I watched my sister pack her life into cardboard boxes while standing in the doorway of what used to be her home, and I felt absolutely nothing. That should have scared me. The old version of myself, the one who existed just 6 months ago, would have been horrified at my own coldness. But that version of me died the night I overheard what Claire really thought of my marriage, my choices, and me. Let me back up. My name is Emma, and for 28 years I was the good sister, the peacekeeper. The one who smoothed over family dinners when Claire made her cutting remarks disguised as concern. The one who laughed off her jokes about my boring life while she regaled everyone with stories of her spontaneous trips to Bali and her rotation of younger boyfriends. I met David at a charity fundraiser 3 years ago. He was 42 to my 25, a successful architect with silver threading through his dark hair and laugh lines around his eyes that deepened when he smiled. Those 14 years between us became Claire's favorite topic of conversation from the moment I introduced them. "He's very distinguished," she'd said that first time, her tone dripping with something I couldn't quite name. "Very established. Must be nice to skip the struggle phase and jump straight to the stability." I should have heard the venom then. But I was in love wildly, completely in love with a man who looked at me like I hung the moon, who made me coffee every morning exactly how I liked it, who left sticky notes on the bathroom mirror with terrible puns that made me laugh until I cried. David treated me like an equal partner, not a trophy or a retirement plan. He challenged me intellectually, supported my dream of opening my own bookstore, and never once made me feel like our age difference was anything but a number. But Claire never let it go. "Don't you worry, he'll want someone younger when you start getting older," she'd whisper during family gatherings, always when David was out of earshot. "Men like that, they trade up, Emma. It's what they do. He's practically your father's age. Don't you think that's weird?" "I just worry you're missing out on experiences with people your own age. Like, does he even know who Bad Bunny is?" I defended him. Every single time. I explained that age was irrelevant when you connected with someone on every level that mattered. I pointed out that David was more adventurous, more open-minded, and frankly more fun than most guys my age I dated. I reminded her that Dad was 8 years older than Mom, and nobody questioned that. She'd always respond with the same pitying smile. "I'm just looking out for you, little sister." That's what family does. And like an idiot, I believed her. The real trouble started after we got married last spring. It was a small ceremony, intimate and perfect. Just 50 people in a garden venue with string lights and wildflowers. Claire was my maid of honor, naturally. She gave a speech that had everyone laughing and crying, talking about how she'd always protected me, how she just wanted me to be happy, how she could see that David truly loved me. I actually cried during that speech. I hugged her afterward and whispered, "Thank you for accepting him. It means everything." She hugged me back and said, "Always, Em. I've got your back." 3 months later, she moved into a rental house 2 streets away from us. "I want to be close to my baby sister," she'd announced at Sunday dinner. "Plus, the rent is incredible for the location. The landlord is some property investment company, but they're really hands-off. It's perfect." Having her nearby was wonderful at first. We did sister lunches, impromptu movie nights, morning walks. David was nothing but welcoming, even helping her move furniture and fixing her temperamental garbage disposal. He'd joke that he'd gained a sister-in-law and a second home to maintain. But Claire's comments never stopped. If anything, they intensified. "Must be nice having someone who can just buy you whatever you want," she'd say when David surprised me with first edition copies of my favorite novels for the bookstore. "Is he taking his medication regularly?" Men his age, health issues start cropping up, she'd mention casually over coffee. "What happens when you want kids and he's too old to chase them around?" I started to notice she only made these comments when David wasn't around. In front of him, she was all smiles and warmth. The perfect sister-in-law. But alone with me, the mask would slip just enough to let the poison drip through. Then came the night that changed everything. David was at a conference in Seattle, so Claire invited me over for wine and a movie. We were 4 glasses in when her phone rang. She glanced at it, rolled her eyes, and stepped onto her back patio to take the call. I could hear her voice through the screen door, loud and loose with alcohol. No, Mom, I can't talk sense into her. I've tried. She won't listen. Yes, obviously it's about the money. Why else would a 28-year-old marry someone practically eligible for a ARP? He's not that great, trust me. I've seen how he looks at younger women when Emma's not watching. She's wasting her best years playing nurse to someone who'll be retirement age before she's 40. I sat frozen on her couch, my wine glass trembling in my hand. She continued, her voice carrying clearly through the night air. The worst part is she actually thinks he loves her for her. Like, Emma, honey, wake up. Rich older men don't marry women 14 years younger because of their sparkling personality. I give it 5 years before he trades her in for a newer model. Or she wakes up and realizes she's stuck playing caretaker. The glass slipped from my fingers and shattered on her hardwood floor. Claire spun around, her face going pale as she saw me standing there. Pieces of broken glass glittering around my feet like evidence of something irreversibly shattered. Emma, that's not what I walked out. Just turned and walked straight out of her house, past her stammering attempts at explanation, past her grabbing at my arm, past everything we'd ever been to each other. I drove home in a fog, her words echoing in my skull. Obviously it's about the money. Playing nurse. Newer model. David called when his conference session ended. Like he did every night when we were apart, I almost didn't answer. For the first time since we'd met, Claire's poison had actually seeped in deep enough to make me question everything. But I picked up. Hey, beautiful. His warm voice came through. How was Sister Night? And I broke. I told him everything. Every comment, every insinuation, every poisonous seed Claire had planted over the years. I told him about the phone call, about how she'd been talking about me behind my back to our mother, about how she'd never actually accepted our marriage at all. The line went quiet for a long moment. Emma, he finally said, his voice tight with controlled anger. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Every single day I wake up grateful that you chose me. You're brilliant, funny, kind, and so far out of my league it's not even funny. I'm the one who married up. The age difference? It's something I worried about at first, wondering if I was being selfish, if you'd regret choosing someone older. But you made it clear that you chose me, not my age, not my bank account, but me. And I chose you. That's all that matters. I cried then, really cried, because I realized that Claire's voice had gotten so far into my head that I'd forgotten what David's actually sounded like when he talked about us. But here's the thing, he continued, and now there was an edge to his tone I'd rarely heard. I'm done with people disrespecting you, especially your own sister. When I get back, we're going to handle this. Together. I thought handle this meant a confrontation, maybe some family therapy or cutting contact for a while. I should have known David better than that. He came home 2 days later with flowers, my favorite takeout, and a strange little smile playing at his lips. I did something, he announced over pad thai. You might think it's petty, you might even be angry. But I need you to hear me out completely before you react. My stomach dropped. What did you do? I bought Claire's house. I stared at him. You what? The rental house she's living in. I contacted the property investment company that owns it. Made them an offer they couldn't refuse. As of this morning, I'm her new landlord. He paused, studying my face. And I'm giving her 30 days notice to vacate. The room tilted slightly. David, let me finish. He took my hands in his. I know this sounds vindictive, and maybe it is partly. But Emma, she's been emotionally abusing you for years. She's been undermining your confidence, your marriage, your choices, all while pretending to care about you. She moved 2 streets away to keep up that toxicity more conveniently. And she's been poisoning your relationship with your mother, too. She's my sister, I whispered, and you're my wife. My partner, the love of my life. And I'm not going to stand by and watch someone tear you down anymore, family or not. His eyes were fierce. She can find another rental. This town is full of them. But she can't keep living in a house that I own while actively working to destroy my marriage. I won't finance my own sabotage. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me was horrified. Part of me felt a dark satisfaction rising up from somewhere deep and unfamiliar. Part of me wanted to tell him to undo it. to be the bigger person. But a bigger part of me, the part that had spent 3 years being slowly poisoned by someone who claimed to love me, felt something else. Entirely. Relief? Okay, I heard myself say. David's eyebrows shot up. Okay? You're okay with this? I don't know if I'm okay with it, I admitted. But I'm not going to stop you either. Maybe that makes me a terrible person. Maybe that makes us both terrible people. But, David, ... I'm so tired. I'm so tired of defending us. Of second-guessing everything, of wondering if she's right, of feeling like I have to apologize for being happy. He pulled me into his arms, and I let myself be held. Claire called 17 times that night after receiving the eviction notice. I didn't answer. She showed up at our door the next morning. David answered it while I stayed in the kitchen, listening. This is insane. Her voice carried through the house. You can't just kick me out because Emma told you about a private conversation. I can, actually, David interrupted calmly. It's a legal eviction. You have 30 days. Everything's in writing. This is abuse of power. This is consequences, David said, his voice harder than I'd ever heard it. You've spent years tearing down your sister, undermining her confidence, making her question her own judgment and happiness. You moved close by specifically to continue that behavior. And you did it all while pretending to care about her. That's not concern, Claire. That's cruelty. You want to call it abuse? Look in a mirror. Emma! Claire's voice turned pleading. Emma, please! Come talk to me. I'm your sister. I walked to the doorway then, and the look on her face when she saw me was something I'll never forget. She actually looked shocked that I wasn't rushing to her defense. You told Mom I only married him for money, I said quietly. You said he'd trade me in for a newer model. You said I was wasting my best years. And you've been saying versions of that for 3 years while hugging me and pretending to be happy for me. I was trying to protect you. No, the word came out stronger than I expected. You were trying to make yourself feel better about your own choices by making me question mine. You were trying to convince me that I couldn't possibly be happy because then you'd have to examine why you weren't. And when I stayed happy anyway, you got meaner. Tears were streaming down her face now. Emma, please. I'm sorry. I'll stop, I swear. I'll never say another word about your marriage. Just please don't do this. Find another rental, I said. There are dozens in this town. Just not this one. Not 2 streets away from me. I closed the door on my sister's face and immediately burst into tears in David's arms. But they weren't sad tears, not entirely. They were complicated, messy, cathartic tears, the kind you cry when something toxic finally leaves your system. The next 30 days were brutal. Claire tried everything: tearful voicemails, showing up at the bookstore, getting our mother involved, who surprisingly took my side once she understood the full context, even attempting to rally other family members. But David had done everything legally and properly. There was no fighting it. I almost cracked a dozen times. Years of being the peacekeeper don't evaporate overnight. But every time I weakened, I'd remember her voice on that phone call, the casual cruelty, the years of accumulated poison, and I'd find my resolve again. David never pressured me one way or another. If you want to let her stay, just say the word, he'd tell me. This is your decision. I just opened a door. You can close it again if you want. But I didn't want to. And maybe that made me a bad person. Maybe it made me just as petty as what David had done. But for the first time in 3 years, I felt like I could breathe without someone waiting to tell me I was doing it wrong. Which brings me back to today, day 30. Claire loading boxes into a U-Haul parked in front of the house that's no longer hers. She'd found a place across town, smaller, more expensive, further from her job. I knew all this because Mom had told me, hoping I'd feel guilty enough to intervene. I didn't. I stood in the doorway and watched her load box after box, and felt nothing but a distant, quiet peace. Finally, she slammed the truck door and walked over to where I stood. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her face harder than I'd ever seen it. I hope you're happy, she said. You and your too old husband with his too much money, playing your little power games. We're not playing games, I replied calmly. We're just not playing with you anymore. Something flickered across her face, surprise. Maybe that I wasn't apologizing or trying to soften the blow? You've changed, she said, and it sounded like an accusation. Yeah, I agreed. I have. I stopped letting you change me into someone who doubts herself. She laughed, bitter and sharp. He's changed you. Can't you see that? You're not even you anymore. The old Emma would never. The old Emma was a doormat, I interrupted. The old Emma let you walk all over her because she was afraid of conflict. The old Emma thought being a good sister meant accepting abuse disguised as concern. I paused. I don't miss her. Claire stared at me for a long moment, and I watched her realize that she'd lost. Not just the house, but the power she'd held over me for years. The ability to make me second-guess my happiness, to make me feel smaller so she could feel bigger. I was trying to protect you, she said one last time, quieter now. No, I said gently. You were trying to hurt me. And I'm done letting you. She left without another word,